Friends, Apple just launched a digital ID, and many groups, especially the religious groups or churches, have been very concerned if this is going to be the start or part of the mark of the beast. Now, let's take a look at what this entails and let's see if this is part of the signs leading up to the mark of the beast and what we can do to prepare ourselves. Check it out.
You guys, Apple has just released a digital ID for identification and US passports. Here we go. Now, reports say they will be merging their biometric security with encrypted ID storage and plans to replace your physical IDs across airports, apps, and businesses. Why don't I like this? They also said this is going to be used at over 250 TSA checkpoints across domestic airports for identity verification. Now, remember I told you guys about one of the richest men on earth, Larry Ellison, who owns TikTok and Oracle, and who's a big fan of digital IDs? Well, it seems like one big master plan between all the big tech companies. You have Microsoft dealing with OpenAI dealing with NVIDIA dealing with Oracle, xAI dealing with NVIDIA, and not to mention OpenAI just did a $38 billion deal with Amazon for cloud storage. So the question is, what are they really planning? Well, I may have some answers. Could it be that they're following in the footsteps of China's Skynet, which is tied to digital IDs, a social credit score, and an AI surveillance system that they actually want to put on the moon? Skynet, huh? Why does this sound familiar? That's because it's the same name as the killer artificial intelligence in Terminator, Skynet. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. It's always in the movies. Make sure you guys go to my YouTube, Maverick Approach, where I do more breakdowns on this, but let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
Wow. That's crazy. It's like everybody's in on it, isn't it? All the companies, the major companies. This really reminds me of Daniel chapter 3. We're going to go to that later, but many of the other religious groups and even CBN, Christian Broadcasting Network, they posted a video as well talking about this very issue. Check this out.
In an announcement that already has folks pointing towards the mark of Revelation chapter 13, Apple has now introduced digital ID. CBN's Billy Hollowell joins us now. Billy, what's your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts are, am I going to get hacked, right? Whenever you're talking about anything digital, when you have information that is stored on a phone, and by the way, this is very sensitive information. These IDs, everybody was essentially forced in America to get a real ID if they want to get on any kind of airplane. I had to go get a new license. You know, we all had to deal with this if we plan to travel. Well, now you have a digital version that obviously Apple is launching, and it's going to be in 11 different states and locations. You know, my concern is always digitally. Let's just start there, and then we can talk about the other concerns. If somebody hacks this, what happens to our sensitive information? There's a hack almost every time you turn around, I feel like nowadays. So it seems to me there are some privacy concerns there, not just with hacking, but also the government tracking and all sorts of other issues.
Well, I was looking at Twitter and some other places just to see the responses. And obviously that's not always the most accurate place to look, but some of the words were Big Brother, digital surveillance, convenience is the Trojan horse. But there's actually a quote that I found interesting from Jennifer Bailey, Apple's vice president of Apple Pay and Apple Wallet. She said this, and I don't know if she even caught that she said this. She says, with the launch of digital ID, we're excited to expand the ways users can store and present their identity, all with the security and privacy built into iPhone and Apple Watch. And I think what's really interesting is that obviously Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, announced something very similar across the pond, and people immediately started putting up the red flags, being like, whoa, 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 because whether you think this is going too far or not, it definitely points people back again to Revelation chapter 13, starting in 16. It says, it also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. And I think, is this all the way there, Mark of the Beast? Probably not. But the idea is we're moving towards a society, a cashless society, a society where you don't even necessarily will need a physical passport, an ID. This doesn't replace it yet, but we're moving in the direction where everything that, in the way she said it, your identity is now going to be digitized to the point where if there was a nefarious actor, a nefarious authoritarian individual who said, hey, these people with this sort of credit score, social credit score, or these people who believe a certain thing can't buy or sell, well, this definitely seems like a step in that direction where it's no longer science fiction. Wow. That's why I think people are starting to freak out online. But Billy, I know you've thought a lot about this whole Revelation side of things. Do you think this is headed in that direction?
I think this is interesting because yes, I mean, this is heading in a direction that seems to mirror. If you had told people 40 years ago that this was going to come, they would say, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly what we've expected." That this globalization, that this interconnectedness, that the cashless society, the idea that your phone is going to be what allows you to be able to travel to and from. But I would also warn people, look at China. China uses these sorts of things to track where people are going. If you go to church, there are some locations reportedly in China where you have to register on an app that you've gone to church. This becomes very concerning in a world in which there is freedom and liberty and truth and a First Amendment. Okay, fine. I guess this is, a minor inconvenience or you risk hacking. But in a world where those things don't exist, even from a structural political level, this can be disastrous and dangerous. We see that in China, again, in other locations around the world. But when it comes to the theology around it, absolutely, this feels very much like the steps you take. I'm not saying this is the mark of the beast. I'm saying these are the steps you take getting towards that sort of thing where everything is stored in one place. And if you don't fall in line with what the government says, or, I'm talking in the future, if things change, are you going to be able to participate? Are you going to be able to purchase food? Or, I don't know. I mean, think back to COVID. If you didn't have the ID, you couldn't eat at restaurants.
And that's the thing, Billy, is a lot of this seemed like science fiction. A lot of this seemed like, relax, guys. But to your point, and I think that is why no one has trusts in anything anymore, because it's like, you didn't let us. I mean, I remember when they were literally sanding over skating pits in Southern California, blocking off the beach. And it's like, y'all really went that far last time. So it's like, this isn't out of left field. This isn't unprecedented. And maybe with more oversight, more digital power, again, a nefarious actor could move on this. And so the question is, well, let me put it this way. I genuinely think this is one of those conversations that's extraordinarily interesting. So please put your comments in the comment section. And it's not just, like or dislike, that's fine. But I honestly want to know what your thoughts are. Like, do you think this is heading in that direction? Would you resist? Would you say no thank you to a digital ID? I know folks in the UK are pretty upset about Keir Starmer more or less mandating that for that nation. Do you think we're heading in that direction? What would happen if that was a mandated thing in the United States? So again, really curious to hear your thoughts. So please let us know in the YouTube section, in the YouTube comment section, because this is a fascinating story to say the least.
Wow. What do you think, friends? This is kind of crazy. This is similar to what it does say on Revelation chapter 13, where they have to have control over who buys and sells. And when you think about it, this would be the modern way of controlling buying and selling. And let's go to the scriptures. Revelation chapter 13. In Revelation chapter 13, there are two beasts. And beasts in the Bible simply means a kingdom or a power. The first beast in Revelation chapter 13 is actually the Antichrist power. And according to the verses before that it received a deadly wound. It received a deadly wound that would be healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. But people don't think that this is something that already happened, but people think now that the Antichrist is something that is coming in the future. But according to history, the Antichrist had already come and they are here on earth. And I made a separate video about this, and I'll put a link on it below if you guys are interested. But the Antichrist, according to Revelation chapter 13, is the Roman Catholic papacy, which is described here, and all the clues pointed to the Roman Catholic papacy as the Antichrist of Revelation chapter 13. And I went over all the details about the clues there on my previous video. But the second beast is the United States of America, which rose up after the fall of the Roman Catholic papacy. And we are now, here in America, considered to be one of the leading, if not the leading nation in the whole world. In fact, they would call the president as the most powerful man on earth. And this second beast is the one that is instrumental in enforcing the mark of the beast. And it says here in Revelation 13:11, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. This is why I don't believe that this is the mark of the beast yet, because the mark of the beast actually deals with worship. When you read here, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. That means the United States is going to pay homage to the first beast, which is the papacy. And how are they going to do that? We believe as Seventh-day Adventists that they will do this by enforcing Sunday worship by legislation. And by legislation, I mean they're going to put some laws that will force people to worship on the first day of the week. In fact, this has been proclaimed by the Pope in the first encyclical that he had. There was Pope Francis, the one who passed away. He made an encyclical talking about our common home, and then he put there in one of the chapters of the book that Sunday sacredness is one of those things that we have to practice to save planet Earth. And catch this, Project 2025 also mentions the same thing, that we should keep Sunday to be a holy day. And that's crazy to me. And that is just prophecy being fulfilled. And I know Trump says, oh, we're not going to deal with Project 2025. But seemingly the policies that were written there are coming to pass. And it says there, he doeth great wonders so that they maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had a wound by a sword and did live. The image of the beast. An image means a replica of the beast that was wounded but lived. This is talking about the papacy. That means the papacy is gonna regain their political power, their influence, like they did in the Dark Ages in the past. And the second beast, which is the United States, is gonna make an image or a homage or a replica of that same power. That means we are going to make a union of church and state and enforce laws regarding worship. We just read that they're gonna cause the earth to worship the first beast. So it says here, he had power to give life to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship. That word again there, that's very important. The key word there is worship. Worship is related to the mark of the beast. And then it says here, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. This is where I believe the digital ID could play a role. I'm not saying that it will, but it could play a role because that's how they could control buying and selling. And regarding the first video that we watched, everybody's in on it. Everybody's in on it. That's how they're going to be able to control the buying and selling, because the major companies of the world, corporations, these multi-corporations, these powers that are controlling the business world, they are in on it. And this is what actually is revealed to us by a parallel story in Daniel chapter 3. Revelation chapter 13 is actually a parallel to what had already happened in the past in Daniel chapter 3. If you're not familiar with the story, this is when Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold. Isn't that kind of similar to Revelation chapter 13? That the second beast is going to make an image to the first beast? And so during that time, look at what the story says. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, whose height was the 60 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, sent to gather together the what? The princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image of the which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So everybody's in on it. All the powers of that kingdom went to this dedication. And on top of that, there's also this voice. The herald cried out, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up." So on top of all the powers, the princes, governors, captains, judges, treasurers, counselors, the sheriffs, the rulers, the businessmen, the rich men of the earth, there's also the herald. What is the herald? That's the media, the news companies, and the musicians. This could be the artists, the Hollywood, the music industry. They're going to use all these things together, and together they're going to be on this mark of the beast to enforce it. And this is going to be really, really difficult for the people of God if we are not prepared and we are not aware of what this is about. The mark of the beast is about worship. It's about worship. It's not a tattoo. It's not a chip. It's not the digital ID, although it could be part of controlling the buying and selling, but it's who you worship. And who do you worship? Who should you worship? According to Revelation chapter 14, this is who we should worship. The three angels' message tells us who we should worship and how we should worship. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, the sea, and the fountains of waters." This is the counter to the mark of the beast. God's counter to the mark of the beast is the three angels' message: to worship God and him only. And he says here, the one who made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and the fountains of waters. There's actually a reference, a direct callback to worshiping God on the seventh day, the Sabbath day, the day to honor the Creator. And so many Christians today have neglected this day, and they say, "Oh, Jesus is the Sabbath. Sunday is now the Sabbath. It doesn't matter which day, just pick a day." But God is saying in the Ten Commandments, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's the only commandment that starts with the word remember, because he knew that we would forget. God knows everything, the beginning till the end. He knew that his people, the Christians, would forget the day that they should honor him, which is the seventh day of the week. And says there again, Babylon therefore, there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. He's talking about Babylon, which is the Roman Catholic Church. And it says the third angel is followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest, day or night, who receive the beast, who worship the beast and his image, who receive the mark of his name. And so, the contrast to the mark of the beast. And so you see the direct contrast there. Those who worship God, they have rest because they worship God on the Sabbath day. But those who don't, it says there, they have no rest, day or night, who worship the beast and his image. The true mark of the beast is actually Sunday worship. Guys, check this quote from Thomas, Chancellor of Cardinal Gibbons. It says, of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change was her act, talking about changing the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. And the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical power and authority in religious matters. Isn't that interesting? That the Catholic Church considers changing the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday is their mark of ecclesiastical power. That means they can change the laws of God according to their doctrine, but that is not biblical. Nobody can change the laws of God because once God says it, he doesn't change it. God doesn't change. His covenant he will not break nor alter the thing that is come out of his lips. And the law of God, the Ten Commandments specifically, came out from his own mouth. And he wrote it with his own finger on 2 tables of stone. That means he will not change those. And so somebody who claims that they can change it and that power to change is their mark of power and authority, that tells me something, brothers. This is actually going to be the mark of the beast. And I know it's not popular. People will try to misquote us. It's not the mark of the beast yet because it's not yet enforced by law. But when it is enforced by law by the government and it becomes a test of loyalty to the government or to God, then that's when it is called the mark of the beast. So those who are worshiping now on Sunday, because they didn't know, and because the light of the Sabbath truth hasn't shone upon them yet, in times of this ignorance, God winks at, according to the scriptures. But now commands men everywhere to repent. So when God shows you the truth, he expects you to follow it. So now that the seventh day is really the most important issue in the last days, to worship God on the day that he has prescribed, to honor the Creator, which is Jesus Christ himself, that's going to be the issue, the turning point, if you may, of the mark of the beast. So I hope that you're not deceived by all these weird theories out there, but rather look in the scriptures, look at what it says really, and hope that you are blessed and you are prepared for when that time comes to make the right choice. God bless.